to Live Your Childhood Dream. And I am delighted, more than delighted, to have a guest today, Laurie Story, who is a dear friend all the way over in the States. And I'm absolutely delighted to have her here on the webinar. She is a storyteller, a musician, a creative sort, and an inner child, I think. So thank you so much for being, and welcome.
Well, thank you, Ruth. I am thrilled to be here. And I am just delighted myself in the fact that you have made this dream come into fruition. So yes, we've become friends since you appeared on the Soul Play Camp the summer of 14, and it's just been wonderful to have you in my world. And I love the technology that lets us connect, you in the UK and me in the States. It's just amazing. And so thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here as a guest, and I'm just thrilled that you're doing this. That it's a wonderful concept that you are bringing into the world. So
that's well. Thank you so much. That's really kind. And yeah, so I think the first thing I wanted to, well, first of all, I kind of welcome you onto the magic carpet, to be honest, because it's just exactly, it's the way we can fly across the world. But,
I know.
And so talking about the magic carpet, I think the first thing I really wanted to talk to you about was, what did you love to do as a child?
I loved to do many of the same things that I do now. Write, sing, make up stories, make up plays, make up songs. I always loved illustrating, and I've always been really challenged with my illustrating, so that's been an interesting thing. But I just always have loved creating. And one of the stories I can tell you briefly from my childhood is, I can remember being on the playground at school, right, and running around and trying to get friends to be in a little play that I had written, you know. And I was like, I wrote this play. Okay, you could be this, and you could be the tiger, and you could, like, I was always trying to, like, you know, orchestrate these things. So for as far back as I can remember, I have been doing this, just making stuff up and then performing it, you know, putting it out there in front of people. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. I absolutely love it. So it just hasn't really changed, to be honest, then.
Yeah, no, not so much. I mean, I definitely went through phases of trying to fit in. I went through phases of wanting to be like rich and famous. I went through a phase of wanting to be like a famous actress, you know. I've never really fit in boxes very well, you know. And so being my own boss and being my own performer and being my own show worked really well for me, you know. So yeah, I mean, I've never held too much in the way of traditional jobs. I did some traditional schooling, and I studied education, but I couldn't really fit into being a teacher. So I just took everything that I was doing and made up a literacy program that is still what I'm running to this day, you know, on my Leaping Literacy online library. And but even in grad school, when I was in the teacher program, I got a bunch of teachers together. I wrote this musical trilogy, Earth Song, and it was a 3-act play for 4 kids, you know, musical and everything. And so the first round of it, I got a bunch of student teachers, and we put the play on, and we took it into all these different schools, right? And then the next couple of rounds, I got older students to perform it for younger students. And that kind of launched a whole set of things that I have done somewhat sporadically over the years, working with groups of students and coming in on arts grants and working with homeschooling families and that sort of thing to write and produce their own plays. I've done that quite a bit. So that sort of thing is just kind of what lights me up, and it always, like I said, as a little kid, always lit me up too. Like, wow, we get to make stuff up. We get to make stuff up, and we get to put it out there in the world. You know?
Just make it up and put it out there. Absolutely.
Make it up and put it out.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. And I suppose the first thing really to talk about is maybe your Leaping Literacy Library, which of course we are in the leap year. Well, we've just gone past the leap year month.
We did, and I jumped in for Leap Day, and I said, okay, everybody come play at the Leaping Literacy Library. It's something that I have been on this journey with my library for a long time. I started it more than 10 years ago. I've been online for a long time, before people were really online, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but things have really changed and morphed, and they continue to change and morph. And what happened was, along the way, my Leaping Literacy Library was always about reading fundamentals, what I call them. And so it came out of that literacy program that I had started in my master's work. And so it was about making reading fun for kids. And so there's the vowel sections and alliteration and all these different things, right? Well, then along the way, I've always been a very spiritual person, so I started my spiritual literacy work, and I wasn't really thinking about it in those terms. I just had a lot of music that was coming forward, and a lot of drive to be a voice for families and children about things like forgiveness and compassion and love. And so I started New Thought Families back in 2007. So a couple of years ago, I was just figuring, all of this is about literacy. All of this is about leaping literacy. So I started combining it into this library, and it's just been this whole kind of journey with that. So now the Leaping Literacy Online Library has these sections. And so I still have my traditional Laurie Stories, and I've been sort of blossoming with that this year, really going back into my archives and producing a lot of new work, and just really focusing on alliteration. I'm doing a lot of re-illustration. I mean, we could probably, go on and on about that. So there's a lot going on there. But then I have all this spiritual literacy work as well. And so the New Thought Families branch of the library, or section of the library, has hundreds of videos and hundreds of songs. And so that's that. And then when I met you in the summer of 2014, I had this really big dream, and it got a little out of hand in producing the Soul Play Camp. And I had all these amazing people come forward to play at the camp. And so now that's a whole section of the library, the Soul Play Camp, where there's artists and storytellers like you, and there's teachers and soul reachers and healers, and they have they have these offerings that we did in video and in audio. And so that's a whole section of the camp, and there's a couple hundred videos in that section. So the Leaping Literacy Library is really about expanding our sense of self and the sense of communicating, and having a lot of fun along the way. When kids are learning to read, I think it needs to be a lot more physical and interactive and world-centered and child-centered, and that's what my work's always been about with that. And then with spiritual literacy, I just think all the ways that are to touch into our hearts and express from our hearts is so important, and to do that as a family, and to nurture that in our children, so that we don't have to grow up and reclaim it. Don't you feel like there's like a lot of people in the world who have to reclaim their childhood, reclaim their heart, reclaim their spirit? And so if we can just kind of skip all that, like just nurture it growing up, and nurture it at any age. My work is very intergenerational. I think we need to play together, all ages, right? We all bring something to the table. So that's kind of a long answer, but
no, it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
The byline for Leaping Literacy, I should just say, it's for traditional, creative, and spiritual family literacy. That's the short answer. Traditional, creative, and spiritual family literacy.
Wonderful. Yes. And I think, it's so many wonderful resources you've created, and I'm very interested in what you've just said about like reclaiming, reclaiming our childhood. Interestingly enough, this is a theme which seems to be going across all three guests so far.
Yeah. And I think that's why you're called to this work, truthfully. Yeah. I think the reclamation needs to happen. It is happening. I think it's always kind of been present, but at this time in humanity, there's more of a focus on it, maybe, or maybe more of an acceptance of it. Like I know in my parents' generations, it was all about work, 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 and your childhood was very short, and then Whereas now I think the consciousness is expanding more to, to knowing the wisdom of what it is to play, to knowing that that's what makes us happy, that's what makes us full beings. And so, yes, being in a reclaiming process, so that that hopefully the tide can turn and we can live as more integrated beings going forward. I'm hoping that my son, who is just turned 16, that he will have a way to be more well-rounded than I had a way to do that, just because we've had a very conscious time together where we really prayed a lot together, and we've played, and I think he just has more permission, hopefully, to be all of who he is, which is child, and now becoming a man, but not losing that childhood when you become a man.
So it's that sort of groundedness, that sort of authenticity, and
yes. Yeah, I think so. And the other major section of Leaping Literacy that I didn't talk about is child sing song circles and music. My son's is a great musician, and he looks at music much differently than I do, just because he's very mathematical and he has this kind of musical genius about him. But for me, music and song is one of the best ways to be in our happy hearts, in our child hearts, and if you look at small children, they will often just sing. There's a thing called the throwaway song, and that's when you're just, whatever you're doing, you're just singing, like I don't know if you saw the movie Elf, but he's like, I'm in the store and I'm singing, I'm on video and I'm with Ruth and I'm singing, and this isn't a great song, we'll probably never sing it again, we'll just throw it away when we're done, but it's fun for now. Just and when we sing, that helps us reclaim our heart, I think, and makes us just more centered into the joy of living. So song is just a wonderful thing.
I love that idea of a throwaway song.
Yeah.
It is so natural to do, isn't it, as you just wander around the house. I think it's so natural to do, so at least for me. I have to find out for my viewers.
I think it is, and I think with small children it is, and I think that those of us that are more in our I don't know what you call it, childhood heart, I guess, or just more in touch with our inner child, or just more, we will just open up into song, and maybe, I don't know, because song is so natural for me, and maybe for others it would be something else, like maybe painting with your finger on the wall. That's like a throwaway picture, right? Like you can see it, nobody else ever does, right? Harold and the Magic Crayon, like woo. But I know that in our society we focus a lot on like the outcome, and I know you and I have talked a lot about this, and I go through this a lot about getting paid for what I do, but yet just knowing I have to do it and I'm going to do it whether I get paid or not, and all that stuff. And I think that part of play and part of being a happy child and a happy person who's child-centered, whatever, is just being able to play and follow what's making you happy in the moment. And yes, as adults and taxpayers and bill payers, we have to think about money and strategies and stuff. But I think just being able to create in the moment and throw it out there, if it sticks, it'll come back. Like when I'm writing a song, a lot of times I'll just be in the car or something and a fragment will come in, and then it'll come back. It'll come back if it's to be nurtured and made into a song. So that's a little bit, I don't know if that made sense. It was a little bit of a tangent, but just being able to throw away, I think, is important too.
No, I think it really is important. I think it's something we don't talk about so much in society. As you say, it's all about things being perfect and it being a project, or and these sort of things they nurture us as well, don't they? They
do, and for me, I can't live without it. I just can't. And this year, I made a big push the first 2 months of the year to be making more of my books and to creating some songs. And I put myself on this alphabetic thing, this alphabetic calendar at New Thought Families. Well, going back just a little bit with the Leaping Literacy Libraries, where I've sort of consolidated all these resources I've been creating over the years, but and so there's creativespiritfamilies.com, and that's where I'm housing the library. But I have these other websites of Laurie Stories and New Thought Families. And at New Thought Families, we have a daily play and pray calendar. And I've been doing it for years, and it's a lot of work, but I just am like addicted to it. And I just think it just feeds me creatively. And the thought that others can be inspired with it, and every once in a while I get some feedback, that people are inspired by it, that to me is, it's just it's just invaluable. So the fact that I don't really get paid for it is kind of an issue sometimes, but it doesn't stop me from doing it. The last couple of years, almost 2 years, I would say, prior to this year, I was recycling a lot. I think in 2015, I did 2 fresh calendars for 2 months, but they are a lot of work. So anyway, for 2016, I did this for the ABCs of humanity, so for humanity. And so every 2 weeks, the letter changes, and talk about being on a production schedule. It's like, whoa. So the New Thought Families Play and Pray calendar, the first 2 weeks, Awake and Aware. And then it was, I don't even know, Beauty's Blessings, I think. And so it just goes along, and we're already on letter E. We're evolving energies now, right?
Yes.
And so as part of that, so I've been doing a lot of production work with that, which I totally love. And then as part of that, I'm putting all these other ABC things out there, and writing these little ABC chants for a CD that I want to put out this year called Children's Chants. And it's something I've been wanting to do for years, and I've had bits and pieces of it and a few songs that I wanted to do. And now I'm putting it on this alphabetic thing, and then doing all these Laurie Story books, and also going back and cleaning up a lot of the stuff that's there. So for me, being in that creative flow, I just feel the most alive ever. Like, I just feel like this is what I'm here to do. And everything else that I'm doing is important to me too, and I'm very committed to my son, and I've been doing caretaking for my 90-year-old dad, and that takes up a lot of my time and energy as well. And I'm committed to my family, and I'm committed to things, but there's something so, I can't even put it in words. I just feel so on purpose and so filled with spirit when I am producing my work. And I think we all have those callings. And when you go back to your childhood and you look at what fed you as a child, like if you're looking, well, what is it? Why do I feel empty? What am I looking for? I think the wisdom is always there. It's always been there. And as a child, we can say yes to it because we don't have so many constraints about making a living as far as money. But to me, making a living is really about being in our authentic expression of life. And so I just have felt so, I've been sort of exhausting myself, so I have to pace or whatever, but I'm just loving producing all this work this year. And so I think whatever format we can put it into, I think it comes down to this, at least for me. When you put a little bit of discipline in there and a little bit of dedication, or maybe a lot of dedication and discipline, and some structure around your creativity, for me, that's what it's taking to do what I'm doing with all these different aspects of my creative work. So
it's great. So it's bringing those different elements together. It's sort of like a huge amount of creativity, and then the dedication and the structure to it as well, which I guess is the part which we don't tend to have so much as children because we don't need it.
Don't have to.
You don't have to. Yeah.
And I think there's that balance to be had between the throwaway song and the throwaway creative experience and what we want to express into the world and what we want to have go forward. I know for me, I've likened it, for many years, I've likened it to, it's like I'm a bird in the forest singing my song. And I am the happiest when I am creating. And yet there's something full circle in me that wants to become full circle with sharing it. So, and that's actually, over the years, it's been really tempered. I mean, even something like Facebook, where if I published a new book and I put it out there and 2 people like it, it's like, well, more people would like it if they saw it, I think. But so it's a dance between, I have to do this, I have to create, I am putting this out there. And there's many things that I'm trying to clean up because I create it, I'm thrilled with it, and then I go next, you know? And so the library actually kind of gives me a structure of like, okay, and I have this long list of titles, the 12 plus that I have produced this year that I'm still formatting and putting into my library. So it's like having that discipline and that structure to go, okay, wait, you know, there are people who could use this stuff, or, you know, potentially they could use it, potentially this is going to serve them. And if it just keeps in your back files, it doesn't have that opportunity to go out and serve, you know. And so I feel like I'm always kind of doing that dance between the creating and the just creating for creation's sake, and being structured and putting it out there. And then there's that whole thing of what people call marketing, where I have to go out and convince people, you know, but I don't like that whole concept. It's like, I want to be able to serve. I want it to be out there. And yes, I want to value myself and make money, because I have to make money in the world. And so anyway, that's just, it's kind of like a dance I've been doing my whole life, it feels like. But that said, I am just so blessed. You know, right now I make money from my family, and I'm concentrating on ways that I can keep expanding the library and offering it out there to people. And I guess the thing that I want to come full circle in that discussion is that making money is a creation too. Everything we create, we are co-creators of our world. So everything we create and co-create, it doesn't, I think in some broad scheme, money's not that different than a song or a book or anything else we create, right? We're just, we're dancing with it, we're creating it. I'm looking to see if I have my notebook handy. I guess I don't. I've been writing these chants so fast I can't remember them, but the co-creation one I really like. And this is half of it. I think this is the second half of it. Co-creation celebration. Oh, I can't remember that line. Co-creation celebration. Co-creator, that is me. Anyway, it's just like, it's very fun and affirmative. A lot of what I do with my spiritual literacy work is just affirming who we truly be. And across the board, it's all, for me, it's all about wordplay and rhyme and alliteration and fun. And if it's fun to sing, then we're going to sing it over and over, maybe, you know, and help root that in ourselves, you know.
Absolutely. It's using those affirmations, isn't it? And as
it is.
Start to use those affirmations, they get inside us, really.
Yes. And I think part of what stops us from living our childhood dreams or living our childhood self is when the affirmations have been stopped. And, you know, how many times was I told growing up that, you know, you don't make a living as an artist, right? And so somewhere that's what I believed, because I've always struggled with the money part of things. And so being able to rewire that within ourselves, there's many, many, many ways that is done. I love vibrational frequencies these days, and there's so many different ways to heal. It's amazing. But I think just allowing the flow of who we truly be, allowing ourselves to be joyful, allowing ourselves to co-create, whether or not it's going to bring whatever it's going to bring, just trusting that process. And ultimately, isn't it really just about listening to that guidance, that higher guidance that's always flowing in our hearts, right? And not asking why. Like when you were going to do this show, I'm sure you had plenty of whys, like, well, and how's? Like, how's this going to work? And I think you shared with me, and sorry if you don't want me to say this.
No, that's good. No, go on.
But, you know, I just related so much because you shared with me that your mom was like, well, how's that going to make you money? You know, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that one. Right? Well, how are you making money doing that? I was like, well, I guess I might not, but I'm going to do it anyway, right?
It's a calling, isn't it? Whatever we just get called into it, and it's and I'm interested. The bigger picture, and absolutely.
Yeah. We can't see that big picture. That's why they talk about in law of attraction. You don't ask how, you just, or even why. You just, those next steps, you know.
Yeah. And they're sometimes a bit random as well, aren't they?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's the thing about kids is they don't ask why. They don't ask how. They don't, especially the young ones, the littles. Like, and they don't care if anyone likes their song or not. They're just going to sing it. They're just flowing. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, that's really true, isn't it? and that flowing is playful, and that's what play is. It's flow, isn't it? And it's
It
creative.
is. It is. Yeah, and I keep trying to find the resource for it, but I think it's an old voice that said that the vibration of play and pray is the same. And even though they outpicture very differently, where prayer is most often, a reverent, quiet, kind of thing, and play, can look all kinds of different ways, but often it's loud or it's full of laughter, but if you think about where they are vibrationally, to me, it makes perfect sense that they are at the same, because it's all about flow. It's all about allowing Spirit's expression through us, whether that's a playful, joyful, happy thing, or whether it's a more, reverent, quiet, peaceful thing. They're very different, but they're very same in how they come out. And if you think about Spirit as creation of life, how many different ways love is expressed in this world, and love is expressed through each of us, right?
Absolutely. I think that's a really good point. And I love the idea of play and pray being the same vibration. It feels right.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it feels right to me too.
I think I remember years ago writing down a line which was something like, I thought they said pray, but they said play, or words to that effect.
Right.
That's sort of, I'll have to drag it out from somewhere. But yes, that's really interesting that there's actually experts saying that.
I think so too. I want to say it was like, for some reason, I always think it belongs to the guy who said, and now I'm drawing a complete blank, oh, now I'm on the spot. Okay, it'll come back, I think.
It will come back, don't worry.
He lived a long time ago. He's dead now. But some of what he said was, Meister Eckhart, thank you.
Meister Eckhart, right.
Meister Eckhart, and he's the one that said, if you ever only say one prayer, thank you is enough, right? And so we've always, my son and I always say prayers in the morning and at night, and it's always thank you, because that vibration of gratitude is so high and so wonderful. And so just by saying thank you, you're putting yourself in that prayerful space. And for some reason, I want to attribute it to him that he said that prayer and play were the same vibration, but I haven't really been able to find it. So if you find it, let me know.
I will do. I'll go off on a hunt.
Good, that'd be great.
It's lovely to mention Meister Eckhart as well, because it's just the wisdom from these sort of incredible spiritual and new thought writers, and obviously we've both got unity in common.
Yes.
So with the sort of new.
And what's fascinating to me is, as a young person, I always wrote poetry and stuff, and I loved Thoreau and I loved Emerson. And it wasn't until later, I grew up in the Catholic faith, and it wasn't until later in my life that I discovered unity, and it really brought me home. And I feel so akin to that, and Church of Religious Science, and just all the New Thought teachings is why I was called to do New Thought Families. But Emerson was really a forerunner of all of that. He was actually in that too, although he was much more a voice for nature and all of that. But the wisdom has been here for generations, and yet we have to keep relearning it, right?
Almost every day, don't you think?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And I think a lot of people probably know Emerson. I think Emerson is actually quoted in The Secret, if I remember rightly.
Maybe, yeah.
A number of other sort of new thoughts. So
one of the things that he says, or he said, was the world. God laughs in flowers.
Oh, how beautiful!
I get angel kisses.
Oh.
I love that, because flowers are such an amazing face of divinity, and there's so many different patterns and different ways that they come about, and just the way that they can grow through snow or through a rock. I mean, they're just such a and to think of them as God's laughter, to me, that's just an amazing God, isn't it? Isn't that awesome?
That's stunning. It's such a you want to get out your pens and paints and start.
Yeah, and and just as there's been so many wise and inspirational people through the ages that can still be speaking to us, I really believe, taking this back to our theme, our child has all of that too, you know, and children have this amazing sense of just alignment, I think, aligning with the divine. And unfortunately, you know, we have these generational patterns that get passed down through parents and whatever you want to call it, dysfunction or unhappiness, or, you know, just ways really to me of blocking who we truly are, right? And speaking of these inspirational leaders, you know, Emerson said, everything is either an act of love or a cry for love. And so just looking at it from a compassionate standpoint, or a place of radical forgiveness or radical acceptance, you know, our soul comes into these families and we know who we are. We're these divine shining beings, and then we have all these things that are dumped on us or whatever that we get patterned after, like, oh, you know. And so then we spend all this time unraveling it. So that's why, again, it's so important for me that the more we can give our children the tools and the knowledge and the affirmation and the you know, the way to be centered in who they truly be, so they don't have to lose it and reclaim it. I think that's just so important. And I have to sing that line now. Sorry, but I do, because I wrote a song based on Emerson's act of love or cry for love. It's called Always Love. An act of love or cry for love, love always, one presence, one power, one love, always love.
Oh, lovely. Thank you for sharing that.
I just felt compelled.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And that's just, it's that power, isn't it? And it's that power of the music with the words, with the art. That's just, no, I'm really pleased you did share it. Thank you.
Thank you. I felt the call. So.
And I feel that this might be a good time to actually talking about the music and for talking about sort of the larger picture, really. You've been doing this great project with the sort of For Humanity.
Yeah.
And I know that sort of, did that actually start with the song, or did that start with I'm trying to think what was the essence? Tell us a little bit about it.
It was around the holidays, which, you know, from a business standpoint, it really would have behooved me to start like back in October, you know, and get ready to launch it in for the year, right? But it was around the holidays, and I think I was actually at a solstice party, and I've been thinking a lot about how to structure so much work that I have, and you know, you've been a great help the last few months of 2015. I was calling you my UK librarian, because you were going in and checking links for me and stuff, because there's a lot there in the library. And I thought, well, you know what? It's all about literacy, and literacy is really based on the ABCs, right? And this is like you know, just one aspect, obviously. So it just came to me, and I just started thinking of all these kind of phrases, like for humanity, you know, live hope for humanity, and all these different things kept playing in my mind, right? And so right around Christmas, I just decided, okay, I'm just gonna do the ABCs, you know, and talk about just like following your, you know, if you step back and you look at it, it's really crazy. It's like, oh, but there's a new letter every 2 weeks. You know? And then I start going back and trying to clean it up. So anyway, and then around New Year's, we always go to a music camp. And I've been going there for like 25 years, and my son was there in utero, and he's been there every year of his life. And so we were at camp, and I was like, I was in the thick of it. I go and I'm immersed in what's going on. And I was like, I had my laptop, but I was like, well, here we are at the first, and now what, right? So I just threw it out there, awake and aware. It was like New Year's Eve, and I'm at this camp, and I'm like, anyway, and so I just started. And then about a week after being home from the camp, I just was having music flowing through me again, and just really reignited my my inner songwriter, and just my desire and my need, my pull to be fully expressed as who I am. So I started writing these chants, and I wrote the For Humanity song. And I love this For Humanity song, and I felt the presence of Pete Seeger, which doesn't get any better than that. I was blessed to have a couple conversations with him in his lifetime, and I'm sure he probably wouldn't know what it was, because he was such a figure for so many and had many conversations. He might actually remember we had a long conversation on the phone, because I had written some child-based lyrics to Turn, 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 to everything, turn, turn, turn. And I had the most amazing conversation with him on the phone, where he talked a lot about Ecclesiastes and this whole thing. And I had several thoughts of like, put on the record, to record him, but it felt cheesy. He's such a personable guy. And I had met him at a Children's Music Network gathering, and he was telling me then that he didn't like being like famous. He didn't like people like always, wanting his endorsement or whatever, that kind of thing. He was very humble and very, not so much like me. Like, I like being in the limelight, right? And he didn't so much. And so there was that thought, like, because I was like, oh, just turn it, because I have the whole recording thing on my computer. I was like, yeah, recording what he's saying, but it felt cheesy. And then I've actually regretted it, because I can't remember most of what he said. But we talked for about 45 minutes, and he talked about how in Ecclesiastes it laid out this whole thing about the season of life and the circle of life and all of that. And
so we're talking about the so Ecclesiastes from the Bible, and the song Peter C. With every season there's a time. Yes. To
everything, because the chorus of that song is a guess. I'm not a very good Bible person, or I'm just not a Bible person. I won't say a very good one. I just don't have not been a Bible scholar, don't spend a lot of time in the Bible, but I think it's pretty much a direct thing from there, and to everything, turn, 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 there is a season, turn, 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 and a time for every purpose under heaven. Right? So anyway, sidebar on Pete Seeger, but I really felt him come to me and kind of sit on my shoulder and write this song For Humanity with me. And, I just believe that people's spirits are always with us, and in many ways, shapes and forms. And of course, they kind of come and go, because I'm sure Pete's very busy doing other things, whatever. I mean, who knows, right? In the great beyond, what he's up to. But just this whole concept of For Humanity, because, humanity is about as huge as it gets for a concept. And so to write a simple folk song that's singable, I think that's where Pete's services were needed. I can definitely be a little wordy. I know these children's chants that I'm writing are a little wordy for chants and for children, but I want them to just be fun, and I'm loving them. But anyway, so he came and we wrote, For Humanity, and I'm still wanting to get a good music video together. I tried to just throw a music video together, and I was like, oh, that didn't work. Okay, well, I'll just be patient, and it'll happen. But yeah, it became the theme song for the year, and it came about probably a week or 10 days into the whole calendar.
So it's a really wonderful song, and it's so I think we'll try and maybe share a link or somewhere.
I did actually put it in the blog, and it's around, so we can figure out how to link it. That would be good.
Yeah, it feels like one of those songs which we should be sort of singing outside. I don't know, in fields, and I don't know, outside.
That brings back a thought that I had and I sort of forgot about, was I've seen those compilation videos that people do where people sing in different parts of the world and then it comes together.
Yes.
Wouldn't that be cool?
It would be. Absolutely.
I've got you in the UK, and actually maybe you'll be in Portugal next week.
Exactly.
But yeah, getting people to sing and then just putting it together, that would be really cool.
It would be really cool. Well, maybe should we give a call out to everybody who's watching?
Shout out, yeah. And maybe okay, good. When I go on the blog this week, I do the blog every week, I'll put a shout out on the blog, and we'll get it all linked up, okay?
Okay, well, whoever's watching out here, this is your official invite to...
You are invited. Please sing along. And we would love to see where you live and your piece of humanity, and sing along, and we'll get you the link to the songs.
Brilliant. Oh, I love how we always end up creating something on the
Right, exactly. Don't you love it?
Absolutely. Oh, that's wonderful. And I was just thinking, sort of going along the sort of for humanity, I just wanted you to talk a little bit about back last year, going to the Parliament of Religions, and some of your kind of live work, really.
Yep. My son and I went to the Parliament of World Religions, and it was a international gathering that was held in Salt Lake City. And so we drove out there, and what an amazing event. There was literally people from all over the world, and there was about 10,000 people there. There were people from all different religious paths, and so there was just an amazing amount of color and expression of different things. There were Buddhists doing sand mandalas, and the Native Americans out front had a teepee and a big fire, and they were keeping circle going, and the Sikhs did langar, which is like the free lunch, and massive amounts of people went through that line when you had to put on like a white scarf over your head and take your shoes off and sit on the floor, and they would serve us this wonderful meal. And so there was just so amazing. It's just so much going on. You could only take in a fraction of any of it just because there was so much. And we did a play shop, and I've been doing play shops for a bunch of years. They're kind of a mini version of what I do every summer for my camp. I do a family camp up in the High Sierras called Feathers of Freedom, and you're all invited to that too. But a play shop can take on a different theme, and we intersperse it with some sing-along music and some art and some sharing, some group heart sharing. And so we did that, and I wasn't sure what to expect doing it at such a large venue, and there's like a bazillion things going on at any one time. But we had about 30 participants, which I thought was decent. You know, we were in a big ballroom, so it was kind of like, okay, now what? But we set it up down the middle with the carpet had these circles, and so in the circles, I put all these different things that people could create with, and then we gathered up a few different times and went around the circle and shared. And our theme was in our hands, because how we treat ourselves, each other, and the planet, it truly is in our hands. And that's one of my CDs with the music is about that, and we have children's voices on that. And I have a lot of CDs and a lot of music, and I think that again the music helps us get in our hearts and share. And so doing that at the Parliament was just it was an honor. It was a blessing. It was a little bit stressful because, you know, to do it in such a big place and not really know who you're going to get. But we had a lovely group of people, and I think, you know, representative of several different countries and multiple different faiths that came to share with us. And so that was awesome. And then just being there at the event itself, I think was life-changing for me. And, you know, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's actually where the seed was planted. I don't think it came conscious for me for humanity until later, you know, like I said, closer to the holidays. But the Parliament was reclaiming the heart of humanity. That was the theme of the thing. So that's really where the seed was planted, and really what got me thinking about humanity as a whole, because we are so many things culturally, and, you know, in our religions and in our cultures and in this crazy world, there's just so much that represents humanity, but we all share the same heart. We all come from the same creator. We all want to just be love expressed and happy and fulfilled, right? And so the way that out pictures is very different for everybody, but you know, so yeah, the Parliament was a great experience. I'm so glad we did it. And that was another thing where I felt called to put in a proposal, and the other part of me was like, oh, are you kidding? Who are you? Like, this is a big international event. You're just this little peon, whatever, you know, like, and but the calling wouldn't go away. And as I am wont to do, I put it off. I put off the thing, and I was right up against the deadline. And then we were traveling, and we went and we stayed with some friends, and we sang in their church that morning, and their church was a Methodist church, and and we were leaving that afternoon to go to my sister's wedding. We were driving down to Arizona, and these guys were like halfway, and so it was this whole crazy thing. And I had the outline of my proposal done, but I hadn't turned it in, and I hadn't, finished it. So I just kept giving it over, and I said, if we can make this happen, let's just make it happen. Otherwise, I've got to let it go, because I just, we'll just go to the thing. I don't have to present, whatever. And sure enough, we did the church service, and then our friend was going off to do another church service, and we had like a 2-hour window. He said, "Can you stay and have lunch with us before you drive on?" And my son, is very good friends with their son and stuff. So anyway, it worked out perfectly, as Spirit always does, divine order. I had this little 2-hour window. So I just went, I took my outline, I got online, I did the proposal, I turned it in, literally like hours before it was due, or the deadline. And then I just let it go, and then they called us to present. So there were a lot of us that presented, like I said, but that's one of the things that made it such a rich experience. And in the end, it helped me see that my piece of what I offer in the world with the play shops and the heart work, that it can cross cultural barriers, and it can cross different religious paths. So that was fun and affirming.
Sounds beautiful, and and following that calling, and that the whole conference was what the heart, reclaiming the heart of humanity.
And I get angel kisses, reclaiming the heart of humanity. Yes. And so, and one of the things too, and I'm so glad you brought this up, because sometimes our conscious minds don't put the pieces together correctly, because you had asked about where did I get this thing for humanity. In leaving the conference, they're asking you, like, what are you going to do? Like, what is your piece to do, or whatever, and so this really was my piece. All I could think of, because there's so much going on in my world as it is, all I could think of was, well, I'm doing my work. I'm doing the websites. I'm doing this spiritual literacy work. I'm doing my literacy work. Leaping literacy. That's what I'm doing that's what I'm doing. But then this whole theme of for humanity is really so much just stepping it up, because that's what it is. Like right now, for the letter E, it's evolving energies, and our energy of the planet is always evolving, and we as individuals are also evolving, but we also have this tendency to stay stuck, or to resist change, or to not evolve, and so we need to push ourselves sometimes, and that's what it is to step into a calling. That's what you're doing when you're stepping into this whole new enterprise of living our childhood dreams. I just think it's such a beautiful, needed voice. And by you saying yes to your calling to do that, then you're going to be giving permission to so many other people to be able to, say yes.
Oh, thank you. I think it's all these parts, isn't it?
It is.
Wow. Well, I think that's a really good time for us to, what I really wanted you to do actually was to do a little, I think it's going to be for humanity, really, a little prayer. But before we do that, maybe we could just recap a little bit about where people can find you, your summer camp, and invite people to the website. So the main websites are...
So if you go to creativespiritfamilies.com, and it's just all one word like it sounds, creativespiritfamilies.com, really you should be able to get, I keep working on navigation, you should be able to get everywhere you need to go. At creativespiritfamilies.com is the Leaping Literacy Library. We have a free shelf, and you can sign up as a free member. And then we also, have our memberships there, where we have all these songs and videos, and literally hundreds of songs and hundreds of videos and all of that. And right now, I just have to slip this in. I know this shouldn't, because it's probably, because 29 days goes by like that. But for 29 days for a Leap special, a Leap Day special, I'm offering the library for $29. I wanted to make it like a no-brainer. Just like it's pretty cheap anyway, but because I'm only charging like $144 a year, whatever. So, but $29, it's like, and you can go on and you can download all this music and all this stuff for like a whole year. But even so, or even not, you should be able to get to Laurie Stories and New Thought Families from there. And New Thought Families is where we have our daily play and pray calendar. You don't need to log in. It's all just free. At Laurie Stories, I have all of these language games and things that you can play for free, and book samples and all this stuff. So I have a lot of stuff out there. And also at Creative Spirit Families, click on events, and you will find the summer camp and play shops. I'm not doing a lot with the play shops right now because I'm focused on the library and the summer camp, but the summer camp is there. And if you are anywhere near Northern California, the High Sierras, or you want to be for a weekend in August, the camp is super uber cheap and it's super uber fun. And there's
it looks amazing.
Goes on the page. There's a lot there, and it's just a wonderful time. So, and I would love it if you could come, but I know it's a little stretch. But
well, I put the intention out there, so you never know.
That would just be so amazing. Oh my gosh!
Yeah. We're definitely going to do it at some point.
Yeah, and we're like 30 miles from Lake Tahoe, so it's just it's a gorgeous place of the planet to visit, and just a really, really fun time. So yeah, thank you so much for this time and for what you're doing. And we had talked a little bit before, and I'm just going to say it out loud because I know that I'm not alone in this. Sometimes we can get so caught up in our to-dos that we don't spend enough time with our ta-das. And so I totally just am celebrating all that's being done out there in the world. And I'm just going to take a minute to celebrate myself because I don't do that enough. And I'm celebrating that that we have leaping literacy, that we have for humanity going on, and if everybody does that in their own special ways, then that's how we're evolving the energy of the planet, which is such a beautiful thing. So thank you for your part in doing that, and yeah, it's just really fun. So
no, that's what I would love to. I mean, I think so. I'm going to ask you because we do it so regularly ourselves. Yeah, I think so. I just want to be able to share this with with all the viewers.
Well, this is a beautiful Tibetan singing bowl.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's probably a lot of different ways to do this, but we just kind of call in the beautiful vibration of our Holy Creator in thanks. And so we will just tone this. My Christmas clock is chiming in the background. I don't know if you can hear that, but we just give so much thanks and gratitude to our Holy Creator and the holy essence of life that runs through us and all of our co-creations. We're so grateful for Ruth and her calling in helping us all to recognize and to live our childhood dreams. We send this love and creativity and gratitude vibration out to any and all beings who will hear this in any and every moment. May each of us be blessed in being our love expressed. And so we say yes and thank you. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much, Laurie, for being here, for being you, actually.
Well, thank you. This was truly a blessing and very, very fun and uplifting for me. So hopefully we will help inspire others to live their childhood dreams and live the best of who we truly be.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, and thank you for being here. So, yeah, I think that's all we can say.
Bye-bye. Thank you.